Hello YouTube, how you guys doing today? Today we are working on a new book called Spark, The Revolutionary New Science of Exercise and the Brain, written by John J. Ratey. The subtitle is Supercharge Your Mental Circuits to Beat Stress, Sharpen Your Thinking, Lift Your Mood, Boost Your Energy, and much, much more. So that's a great subtitle, and that basically is the promise of this book, is that if you understand the information of this book, you'll want to exercise every day because trust me, the benefits, whoo, they're big. They're big, guys. So let's quickly go over what I do in every video. So I am the core concept coach. So what I do is first I get into three layers of the book. The first is the core concept that I want that the book is founded upon, the foundation of the book, and that I want you guys to take away from. Next is the theory that we kind of get into. And finally is the action phase. Three steps that you can take to apply the knowledge of this book into your life. So let's get started. So what exactly does exercise do? Well, there is a connection between exercise and the brain. And then that brain involves neurotransmitters such as dopamine, which is the pleasure center of the brain. You know, when you have sex or you eat good food, the dopamine fires, right? Well, it's been found that exercise naturally increases levels of dopamine, serotonin, all of these new neurotransmitters in the brain. And you have to realize that neurotransmitters are what help the neurons of your brain communicate. So having those neurotransmitters is very important for your brain. People who have been deprived of dopamine, drug addicts, for example, myself, who I've done drugs for a long time, I'm clean now, but they find that there are lower levels of dopamine, and that just really messes with their motivation, their desire, and that's why exercise is good for a lot of things. First, exercise boosts learning. Exercise boosts learning. Next, exercise helps you conquer addiction. And then exercise beats depression, stress, anxiety, all of these things. It's been proven that, pharmaceutical companies have this whole thing backwards, right? They look at the symptoms and then they give you a pill for it because, if the pill is effective, it's a quick fix, right? They don't tell you, oh, get out and exercise, that's better than any pill, because most people won't do it. So that's the core concept. Exercise, the mind-body connection. Exercise influences the brain, which influences the dopamine receptors in your brain. But the theory is where things get really interesting, guys. The theory, there is this molecule called BDNF. BDNF. BDNF stands for Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Growth Factor. So that's just a fancy way of saying miracle grow for the brain, fertilizer for the brain. We now know that the brain generates new brain cells called neurogenesis every single day. And what exercise does is it stimulates BDNF. They actually took brain cells and put them in a petri dish, right? And then they sprinkled some BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor, and they watched as the brain cells basically exploded into growth, right? Like there were dendrites forming and connections happening. So imagine exercise naturally increases BDNF, and BDNF is like miracle grow for the brain. That's what the author says. So how exactly does exercise help you boost learning and beat addiction and all of these other miraculous things, right? It's tied to this molecule BDNF, right? When you have something that can boost growth, neuron growth in the brain, what that allows the brain to do is to create new neural pathways more effectively, quicker, right? So that's what everyone learning, that's new neural pathways with encoding memory and your prefrontal cortex analyzing data. That's new neural pathways having to form. Addiction, you're trying to create new neural pathways over the old pathways. It's like, you're going in the woods, right? Imagine that you're in the woods, right? There are a bunch of well-worn paths within your brain. And for most people, those paths are not optimal, right? So BDNF allows you to, it essentially gives you like a chainsaw. So you can go and create new paths in the brain through exercise. So that's the short and dirty version of BDNF. So they've done a lot of research surrounding exercise and addiction and exercise and learning. And what they found is that kids who exercise every day tend to get better grades. And they've done exercise in this. They instituted an exercise program in this school in Naperville, and what they found is that these kids went from being below average in their test scores to above average right after they instituted the exercise programs. The kids were able to focus better. They got into it. They were able to remember things. They were more excited about and motivated to learn. So that's just fascinating. Just knowing that you can improve your kid's life by, telling them to go run outside or play some soccer or something. So you're improving their brains, right? And what they found regarding addiction is that runners, people who are serious about exercise, tend to stay sober longer. That's a fascinating statistic, right? If you're trying to beat drug addiction, run, right? Run. So that's the basic theory behind Spark. Now let's get into some, I already talked about one action step that you can take. They say aerobic exercise is what's most beneficial for the brain, right? If you want your brain to grow an infrastructure that promotes learning and happiness and all of these other positive benefits, you want to do aerobic exercise. Weightlifting will help, but it won't be as effective as aerobic exercise. And then another point is dance. Well, this I can say dance, but it's really any complex movement. Any complex movement such as yoga, qigong, if you're into that kind of thing, all of that promotes activity in the cerebellum, and the cerebellum and hippocampus are essential for our learning, and they're intricately connected to our prefrontal cortex, which is the principal area of the brain responsible for learning. So do complex movements. And finally, find an exercise buddy. Socialize. This is so important, right? This ties back to my other idea on habit formation. Not my idea, but Charles Duhigg's idea, saying that you need to pair rewards with good habits, right? Well, we love to socialize. Humans are social creatures. The best way to get a reward, to get yourself exercising, is to pair it with the reward of being with your best friend. So exercise with your friends and watch as your neural connections start growing, right? Watch as you get smarter. Watch as your body gets younger. It's fascinating, the power of exercise. I'm about to go hit a run now, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that little talk. Have a good one.